effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and for the fact that the way India, the energy security has been widely impacted by the war there, do you also think this is essential because UAE is the player that can project India and promote India's long-term interests in the Gulf region? And the messaging of this a short but high impact tour, like in the words of Mark, the messaging and the timings of this particular visit of Prime Minister Modi?
Oh, sure, Sakal. Let me start with messaging and timing. You know, this is the 8th visit of the Prime Minister to the UAE. And if you look at his prime ministerial visits since 2014, he's been to the United States 10 times, France and Japan 8 times, and now UAE 8 times. So effectively UAE, in other words, in our rank ordering of top strategic partnerships, it's right up there. It's the top 3 now. And all the volumes show it. I mean, you talked about the energy, you're right, you know, and we'll go to the details, but the timing is also important because, you know, since the war, the Iran war started in February, hardly anyone has visited the UAE, you know, meaning heads of state or government, because of the air traffic shutdown, and, you know, because the UAE has suffered so many attacks on its major installations, you know, thousands of drones and missiles. So in that kind of situation, for Prime Minister to even do a quote-unquote a stopover visit of few hours is very significant. It's a vote of confidence in the world's, you know, fastest growing economy and rising power in a country that is actually under siege and is struggling, not only because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, but it's all its assumptions about basic security and the US umbrella that protected UAE critical infrastructure. All those assumptions have fallen by the wayside now.
Significantly also, I mean, there are rifts between Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and our NSA has been, you know, in conversations with the NSA of Saudi Arabia. Well, I mean, the entire Gulf region we look at as, you know, as a collective whole in a sense, and this diplomatic geopolitical balancing, as we are talking about, is crucial. India as a dependable partner for all these nations, how significant is the visit in that context?
Yeah, Mark, you're right. I mean, the war has actually shown the contradictions among the Gulf powers. So UAE has suffered disproportionately from most of the Iranian, you know, strikes. Saudi Arabia less so. And Saudi Arabia, as Ambassador Chakravarti was mentioning, has also, you know, it informally heads the OPEC grouping.
Right.
So UAE has moved away from Saudi Arabia, there's no doubt. There are also regional, you know, one-upmanship rivalry between these two traditional powers, because even in Yemen, in Libya and elsewhere, in Sudan and so on, UAE and Saudi have not often backed the same horses. So I think UAE wants to come out of the shadow of Saudi Arabia. And I mean, probably they expect, and also another factor is Saudi Arabia has entered into a so-called mutual defense alliance or pact with Pakistan.
So is there a shifting, you know, geopolitical or security landscape taking
place? So
in
security and defense, Mark, we are not talking about it much because the focus is on energy this time, Prime Minister's visit. But we have signed something called a letter of intent earlier this year for deepening collaboration in defense production, joint exercises, training, and maritime security. So UAE expects probably more, you know, joint maneuvers and such things with the Indian Navy, because see, we are able to, if Fujairah and Khor Fakkan, the two ports of UAE which are outside the Strait of Hormuz, they have also been attacked, you know, but they are outside the Strait of Hormuz. In other words, they cannot be blockaded by Iran, in which case we will be able to, you know, probably give them escorts and such things to bring them out and for the tankers to move easily. Yes. And if we build an undersea pipeline across the Gulf of Oman, which includes these two ports of UAE, I think we can create a kind of like a safer alternative to Strait of Hormuz. So there are many things that are the reconfiguration of the energy mix and our partners is also likely to happen. And so Prime Minister's visit is going to lay the foundation for that kind of a shift. And last thing I'll say is, you know, Gulf countries historically always have had animosities. And like Ambassador Chakravarti is saying, we have tried to thread the needle. We don't necessarily side with one. Just because Saudi Arabia has done a defense pact with Pakistan doesn't mean that we are going to do exactly the same with UAE. You know, because we also have a huge diaspora in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia also is a strategic partner of India. Not as important as UAE. There is a hierarchy, no doubt. UAE is a #1 partner. But we will not want to antagonize Saudi also, right? And because we will not want them to push them further in the direction of Pakistan. In fact, there is a contradiction between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia that's emerged, because Saudi demanded that Pakistan come to their support against Iran during the war. And Pakistan was caught in a no man's land.
You know, the personal relationship between the two leaders, President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and our Prime Minister Modi, the fact that President Nahyan has made numerous visits to India under the Prime Ministership of Modi, they share a very special bond, and I think that's also going to be one of the talking points.
Absolutely.
And the reciprocation by President Nahyan.
Yeah. No, I think Mohammed bin Zayed actually really turned around the UAE-India relationship. It used to be somewhat neutral or even hostile at one time, like going back 20-25 years ago. But now, you know, MBZ, as he's called, has really seen value, and I think a large part of it comes from the trust he has built up with Prime Minister Modi. There's no doubt that he's probably one of the few world leaders whom Prime Minister Modi actually calls my brother.
Okay.
And I think over the years, 5 times Mohammed bin Zayed has come to India.
5 times.
And this is the 8th time Prime Minister is going there. So clearly, you know, these leader-to-leader exchanges do convey a message across the board to the bureaucracies on both sides, to the business communities, to the diaspora, everybody, that, you know, this is really a very, very strategic partnership indeed.
Okay.
And I think Mohammed bin Zayed actually sees in India a huge market, a great opportunity for their sovereign wealth funds. Remember, the UAE has invested close to $26 billion in India so far, and we expect hundreds of billions more. I repeat, hundreds of billions more.
Okay.
You know, in the Indian economy in the years to come. And I think over time, Mohammed bin Zayed has taken UAE foreign policy in a very pragmatic direction. They want to align with countries that are big market opportunities, that have moderate values.
More context, Sreeram, you know, the trade thing, and also are we also looking at some sort of more robust push to the already existing mechanisms like IMEC and revival of I2U2?
Oh yes. No, I think the financial integration is a critical thing. The merchandise trade, of course, like we are saying, a small country like UAE has become our 3rd largest trading partner, you know. It's just behind US and China. I mean, just look at the scale of the UAE and the potential. So definitely financial integration will enable greater trade flows and also greater investment flows. So I think our diaspora there not only is a living bridge, but also they know the art of doing business in India, and they've got the local knowledge, and they are able to create these financial networks which are generating so much wealth. And I think UAE, definitely Prime Minister's emphasis with UAE has always been on this aspect, and under Mohammed bin Zayed they see that, you know, they see this as the way for the UAE to become a bigger player in world affairs. You know, with the Indian support and Indian friendship, they can also rise up. On the question of I2U2 and IMEC, definitely, you know, these connectivity projects, UAE and India are core members of both of these ideas. Unfortunately, because of the wars since 2023, the Gaza war and now the Iran war, some of these pathways have been blocked due to the fighting and due to the mistrust among different players. But I think UAE and India, we can definitely revive the I2U2, because, you know, I2U2 is India, United States, UAE and Israel. And UAE and Israel have grown much closer lately, especially during the Iran war. You know, it's said that Israel actually even deployed its air defense systems to protect UAE.
Right.
So I think we can revive these, because that's how our regional
Chaulia,
influence will spread.
We are getting some visuals of the Prime Minister's
through the partnership.
As we stay with these visuals, Sreeram, would you like to come in? Because obviously the official confirmation of what kind of MOUs are being exchanged is just a matter of time, but anything would you like to add to it?
I think I was struck by the reference to peace and stability, Sakal, in the region, and how India will do everything to support the restoration of peace and stability. I think it indicates a closer, you know, strategic and defense cooperation that's on the anvil with the UAE. I think
defense is very much there.
It's very much there. It's very much there, and obviously, Prime Minister knows, you know, the sensitivities in the region, and he knows all the leaders in the region. We are also engaging with the Iranians for the safe passage of tankers of carrying oil and gas. So I think India has got a unique position in this war, where Israel UAE and Saudi and Gulf countries and also Iran, we've got all of them on our list of strategic partners. You know, there's few countries like that. I mean, Pakistan claimed it was going to do mediation in the Iran war, but Israel is unwilling to accept Pakistan's role at all, you know, and Israel looks at it with a lot of contempt. But we've got bridges with all of them. And UAE, Israel, India, you know, the I2U2, I think, as I mentioned, is a crucial pathway to go forward. And I think bilateral Prime Minister's remarks, it also struck me that, you know, he was saying that the strategic partnership has a higher value at these times. In other words, when the UAE is in crisis, when Dubai has been hit, when its status as a world financial center has been hit, and when, you know, people are leaving the UAE because of the expatriates are leaving because of the fear for security and long-term prosperity of the country, India is actually placing a bigger bet on them. So, in other words, this is what you do in strategic partnerships, right? And that's why he was mentioning that at this current juncture, the strategic partnership has higher value. So, I think India is willing to be a more of a net security provider, number one. And like I said, you know, a dependable energy buyer and also a partner for co-development of strategic reserves. All these will be reflected in the agreements. And I think going forward, I think we'll see more coordination among the I2U2 partners. I mean, especially Israel, India and the UAE, because that is going to be very, very crucial to protect UAE assets going in the future. They have been really rattled by the war. And as we discussed, I think the US umbrella, of course, is there. They still have US bases, but I think they're looking to move to other partners which can protect not just the physical territory of the UAE, but the supply chains and the routes.
So that must be noted that both partners of India and the IMEC have already set in motion plans to avoid future political problems in the region.
Dr. Chaulia, you would like to comment on that point and expand on it?
Yeah, you know, connectivity, we have got many pathways as we just heard. And I think the Arabian Sea region, you know, as a whole, we have to strengthen the maritime security. And that's one of the reasons I think I'm very happy to hear that we have moved forward on the defense you know, agreement, because that creates the basis for interoperability. Already we have been doing joint exercises with UAE, armed forces, and I think now it's not, I think it's not beyond you know, my imagination for India to actually have a permanent presence in that region. You know, most of the powers have been establishing bases.
I will just, yeah, these are fresh visuals again from UAE. They're on your screens, Prime Minister.
Actually, these
Modi.
are visuals of the Prime Minister's arrival a
earlier.
little earlier. We did play out shots for you which were from of the ceremonial reception which took place after that. These are some visuals that we have now gotten a little earlier of his arrival. We showed you the plane arriving and then the Prime Minister getting off the plane, which we have received right now.
Yes, please continue.
Yeah, so we are talking about defense cooperation. I think this framework is going to enable us to have greater presence and movement in the Gulf region, and to secure our own commercial, you know, shipping and our own, you know, energy security. I think we need to have a more proactive presence there, and through the UAE we can do that, you know, and even France is involved. Recently we had the France, UAE, India trilateral, and maritime security is one of the main pillars there. So I think, and France has presence in the Indian Ocean territories as well, and UAE has got a very strong strategic partnership with France as well. So, but I must also mention for our audience, it's not purely bilateral, because when we talk of third countries, UAE is also backing the India-Sri Lanka proposed oil pipeline. You know, UAE financing is going to be critical. So in this entire region, we can actually create these, you know, interdependencies that are safer.
Should we just break away and talk a little bit about the two leaders and their chemistry or their relationship or rapport as we are seeing on the visuals, Dr. Chaulia?
Well, you heard Prime Minister saying, "Ye mera dusra ghar hai." It's my second home, home away from home, and really UAE has become that, you know, for us. And he also, of course, repeatedly referred to Mohammed bin Zayed as his brother, which he's always done. And I think the what has happened is, you know, when there is deep convergence of interests, you can see this bromance or personal chemistry also working. Personal chemistry doesn't work when there is no underlying convergence of interests. So in the case of UAE and India, we have in a way discovered each other in the Modi era, because before that it was there was a partnership, but it was nothing close to this comprehensive strategic partnership that we have, where I'm saying the whole regions are being impacted by UAE-India friendship. It's not just a bilateral. We are also able to shape the region, the regional security architecture, the regional supply chains, the regional energy, layout, and the connectivities. All those are, we are building the blocks for that. So I think it's a big initiative, and Mohammed bin Zayed always, I think, wanted somebody like Narendra Modi in India. They were looking for a partner because everybody knew there was potential. But implementing, Sankalp se Siddhi tak, that's the Prime Minister's famous phrase, we could only do it in the Modi period, because he was pragmatic enough to see that here is a big opportunity that has been not tapped for India's foreign policy. As part of our Look West policy, UAE became our number one pillar. And I think in the Modi era, we've been able to realize it. And Mohammed bin Zayed is grateful to that because, like we have been discussing, they want other pillars apart from the US for their long-term security and for their prosperity.
If we look at the real estate sector, Dr. Chaulia, I mean, we, behind us, we see so many grand buildings, which, of course, mark the UAE skyline. And we also know that, India also has a strong market for real estate. To what extent do you see, this being an area which can see future collaboration in terms of real estate development?
Well, Mark, our audiences should know, UAE, an Islamic country, a moderate Islamic country, has invested in real estate in Jammu and Kashmir. And we have the confidence to bring the UAE in to build shopping malls and, to modernize the landscape of Kashmir. And UAE is clearly with us on these matters. And, it has for a long time been worried about the radicalism coming from Pakistan and how it could potentially threaten even the monarchy there, through Al-Qaeda and ISIS and other kinds of extremist forces. So when you talk of real estate, look at our trust in the UAE that they're coming and building real estate in our most sensitive border areas, and I think we will enhance that further. A lot of their Emaar group, for example, Dubai, they've got even their ports. I'm interested in one of the MOUs that's been signed, which is on ship repair, right? And
yes.
See, this is where the UAE has got some capabilities. They've got some deep sea ports,
the
and
Prime
we need
Minister
to
has
utilize those
posted on
capabilities.
X, I think we'll read this out. The Prime
Yes.
Minister has posted on X, and he says, I thank my brother, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the UAE, for the special gesture of receiving me at Abu Dhabi
we spoke
Airport.
about it.
I look forward to our discussions towards furthering India-UAE ties across key sectors like energy, investment, supply chains, and more.
And those are the areas where these important MOUs have been inked. And the very mention of the gracious gesture, quote unquote, by the UAE president, the way he received and met Prime Minister at Abu Dhabi Airport. I think we just discussed that a while back. And you were telling us about the trade aspect, I think, and the investment.
Yeah,
It's
and
translated from Arabic, so Prime Minister had tweeted in Arabic.
Yeah, no, I think it's a truly a comprehensive strategic partnership. We use this term only for few countries,
This one.
and UAE is one of them. And I think the scale and the level, as Prime Minister said, is just going several notches higher now. And I'm very interested in the ship repair and the port-to-port collaboration, which will enhance maritime supply chains. I'm interested in the defense partnership. I hope we will be able to have a permanent or semi-permanent presence there. Most of the big powers have got military bases in that region, especially in Djibouti, across the Horn of Africa, a little further south of the Persian Gulf. And I think Indian Navy, if you have a permanent presence with the assistance of UAE, with the support of Oman, another friendly country of India, which is right next to UAE. And Oman has also suffered some attacks during this war, but lesser than the UAE. And Oman plays a very important role as a go-between in the regional rivalries. And with India, we have a very strong partnership with Oman as well, going back, including in defense. So I think if we leverage the UAE-Oman connectivity there, and then look towards the entire Arabian Sea as a whole, I think we can rebuild and make this region safer and more shock-proof. Because right now it's all about how do we shield ourselves from these geopolitical shocks. happening due to regional rivalries. We have got very high stakes. We can't pull out of the region. We can't say we'll stop buying oil from Middle East or West Asia. We'll bring all our expatriates home. We have 10 million or close to 10 million people overall, with largest concentration being in UAE. We can't just, exit the place. When there is a big challenge there, we have to go in and be proactive. And I think we are seeing that with the Prime Minister's visit today, where we are being proactive and really deepening the strategic partnership, sending a signal. Everybody is watching it. Iranians are watching it.
Oh, yes.
Israelis are applauding on the
Yes.
side and saying,
Yes.
well done, because of the I2U2, and
Yes.
Israel is very close to UAE now. And then, the broader region, I think everybody wants, my view is, UAE-India should be like the bellwether.
So when
and we can
everybody
then
is watching it,
use this as a model for other
Yes.
bilateral relationships with other players in the region, especially with Oman, which is also very, very ripe fruit for us, low-hanging fruit for
Okay,
us.
so Sreeram, also let's focus a bit more on the big takeaways as far as Prime Minister's brief but very impactful opening remarks were concerned. He started by condemning the recent attacks on UAE. Then he spoke about how India stands firmly with UAE during these, and I quote, difficult and challenging times, appreciating UAE's top leadership's resilience and patience. But that specific reiteration of how India stands firmly with the UAE and respect for international law.
Yeah,
I think there was a message there.
Yeah. No, I think that point about India and UAE both wanting an open and free and unhindered Strait of Hormuz, I mean, that was, categorical point from Prime Minister. And I think that's what the whole world wants. I mean, if there is a double blockade, right now we have like both the Iranians and the Americans have blockaded it on different sides. How is commercial, shipping going to even survive? I mean, we have like hundreds of vehicles that are stranded there. We have been managing through very deft diplomacy of the Modi government. We've been managing to get our tankers and our ships out of the Hormuz through great, efforts and through, networking with different players on the scene. But the point is, international law, Prime Minister said respect for international law, including UNCLOS, which is the law of the sea. A natural formation like a strait is not the sovereign territory of anybody. Nobody can block it or impose a toll on it. And, or nobody can say, I won't let other vehicles pass. This is, this is the high sea. These are the international waters. So it should be respected. And I think that's a very critical point, because right now the whole world is on tenterhooks with regard to how can we get these choke points opened. And the choke points cannot be, held hostage like this. So what is happening for several weeks? The whole world, especially Asian consumers, big Asian, India, China, Japan, South Korea, Southeast Asian countries, most of them are dependent on the Strait of Hormuz being open, Of course, we are now looking for alternatives and we are diversifying, we are looking at other routes. But end of the day, the most economical, time-tested one is the Strait of Hormuz. So I think Prime Minister sitting with Mohammed bin Zayed and saying, we cannot accept this blackmail. Essentially what he's saying is, you can't block the Strait of Hormuz and, hold all of us to ransom like this.
And
I think the message is clear, both to the Iranians, to the Americans, even to our friends, the Israelis, we need to end this war, because otherwise we cannot reopen this, and it's
we
to
need to
detriment
end this
of all.
war.
Chaulia, so then what's going to happen to the Strait of Hormuz? Because, messages have been sent out clearly, but also we have the Iranian foreign minister in Delhi at the current time. So, diplomacy, it takes all forms, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Indian position has been, to take a neutral and balanced view of this. Of course, there was a, military aggression and, an attack on Iran. But that doesn't mean that, the Iranians can then go out and, like I said, hold our present and future to hostage. So I think our messaging to both sides is that enough. The collateral damage, so-called collateral damage, is enormous. And the whole of Asia, especially, is in dire straits because of this. People using muscle power and their geographical position and weaponizing it to the detriment of others. So I think Prime Minister's message today in the UAE will get across, because what we are saying is there is a growing coalition of countries which don't want this war to go on forever. And I think the pressure is there on both the warring sides themselves to find some face-saving exit formula. So I think we would expect the Strait of Hormuz to reopen gradually, but it's been mined and it's going to take, some are saying weeks or even months before it can be really cleared, before the old routes can restart. So we are looking at alternatives. The Red Sea pathway is there, and we will also need to think about maybe around the Cape of Good Hope of south of the southern tip of Africa. Is going to increase the costs of freight, and it's going to increase the cost of shipping, and insurance is a problem. We are taking proactive measures. Government of India has started its own, sovereign backed insurance scheme now for shipping, so that we are not dependent on European insurers who are all wary of this route altogether. And like I said, through our diplomacy, at least our vessels and the ones that are carrying oil and gas for us are coming through, and that's how we've been able to manage this crisis so far much better than most of the countries. So we have actually shown resilience as a country during a major world crisis, and I think a country like UAE and also all the Gulf countries and the ones in the region see that India has been able to absorb the shocks a lot better, and therefore we have more credibility. And also because of our neutrality or middle path, we have more credibility when we say international law should be respected. I think Prime Minister's point is going to echo across the region. It's not an era of war, it's also an era where UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, should be respected. And
absolutely.
we consistently use that message, because that is how, if we don't stand for principles and everybody is out for the narrow self-interest, there is no world order anymore. The order has collapsed, right? So it's that kind of a critical moment. We are on the edge of the precipice mark. And this kind of relationship we have with UAE help to ensure, or at least shore up some elements of order. Otherwise, there's just chaos and anarchy.